There is a real problem in the automotive industry. It's like domino effect.
We lost 2 million cars production.
The impact is enormous.
This crisis is, for the automotive sector, existential.
EPP Group members of the European Parliament on the state of Europe's automotive industry. Welcome to the latest episode of the podcast EU Decoded. We're bringing you politics from the heart of the EU. Europe's automotive industry is facing mounting pressure, with some car makers announcing plant closures. The sector, which provides jobs for millions of people in EU countries, faces the biggest crisis ever.
The automotive industry is quite problematic for the moment.
That's Jens Giesecke, an EPP Group member of the European Parliament and Group Coordinator for the Transport Committee.
I'm from Lower Saxony, Germany, and Volkswagen just announced that they will close down plants, that more than 30,000 people are at risk losing their jobs.
And this is just one sign of difficulties in this strategic part of the EU's economy. EPP Group's Vice Chair and Head of the Working Group Economy and Environment, Dolores Montserrat, explains. Europe is the second largest car manufacturer worldwide and accounts for 7% of the GDP of the entire European Union. It is estimated that more than 15 million direct and indirect jobs depend on the automotive sector. Therefore, it's vital for the economy, not only of manufacturing countries such as Germany or Spain, but for the economic stability of the entire European Union. In Europe, there are more than 200 automobile plants. The market downturn has a negative effect, not only on the biggest producers, but also on countries that are part of the supply chain. Here's Dariusz Śląski, EPP Group Vice Coordinator for the Transport Committee in the European Parliament.
Right now, we have about 200,000 workers in the cars factory. And, it's like domino effect. If we closed some cars factory in the west country, it will be some effect in Poland. So we're interesting right now what will happen, because we produce about 650,000 cars per year. So it's a lot. So we are interested what will happen and what will be the resolution, maybe what will be the special program to help the factory and this sector. I mean automotive sector, because it's very important for Poland, because it's about 8% GDP only in Poland.
Vice Chair of the EPP Group, François-Xavier Bellamy, calls on EU governments and European lawmakers to act now.
In Europe, we could see this whole sector and all the economy around it literally collapse in the years to come if we do not act properly right now. And this is not detail in the European industry, because it is 7% of the European GDP, 8% of the European employment. So this is absolutely huge, and the impact could be detrimental. So we have to react right now. And now the main challenge is for us to support our companies with a transparent, feasible, a concrete and reasonable objective. We need now to put on the table right now a reopening of the regulation. And it starts now, because the main danger is a bill that they may have to pay in 2025 for not reaching objectives that in fact are not reachable. So now that we have to face reality and decide to change the direction. I mean, the Titanic is heading to the iceberg. We could avoid it, but we have to turn right now. We in Europe, many of our countries went through terribly unsuccessful Soviet communist experience. It's not now that we should discover that free market cannot be distorted with absurd regulations. We are imposing, we, European Union, wanted to impose the companies to sell at least 20% electric vehicles next year. But the market is not absorbing it. People just don't want right now, because it's not affordable to buy these electric vehicles. So we are going to put fines, literally 16 billion euros in fines to our companies, which are already very weak in this moment of time, to the profit of Chinese companies, because they will benefit from this new element of disloyal competition. This is completely absurd, and again, we have to get out of it as soon as possible if we want to save the basis of our industry in Europe.
One of the key factors behind the current situation is the forced transformation of the automotive industry. Companies are being pressured to shift towards electric vehicles. The push to phase out internal combustion engine cars is creating challenges for manufacturers and consumers, says Dolores Montserrat. If we want people to buy electric cars, we need infrastructure and aid for a simple reason. Nobody buys an electric car if they can't charge it. But there is also another factor that influences the price. If we want electric cars to be attractive, they must have a cost that does not exceed €20,000. European lawmakers decided that the EU should ban the sale of new petrol and diesel cars from 2035. The EPP Group in the European Parliament was against this measure and is now pushing to revisit the issue.
The European People's Party is strongly determined to preserve our automotive industry, in particular by increasingly focusing on technological neutrality.
Underlines Massimiliano Cellini, EPP Group Vice Chair and member of the Committee on the Environment. The same approach is taken by Jens Giesecke of Germany.
We want an open approach, not banning a certain technology. We want to be open for other kind of fuels, not just electrification. So we need to reflect that this flexibility is part of our regulation. We see that the ban of the combustion engine, the 100% reduction, is not fit for purpose. The industry is suffering, and so we need to change a mistake, to be quite open. With the Fit for 55 package, we were very strict, and now we see that the industry is not ready to do this transformation in a short way. So we need to correct our mistakes, which we did with the Fit for 55 package. For the moment, electric cars are simply too expensive, especially if they are produced in Europe. They are 2 or 3 times more expensive than the competitors from China. So of course we have to work on the price. We have to work on incentive schemes, for example, but we have to make the transition possible. This means that we should not exclude any option. We have to be open for combustion engine with fossil fuels which have an impact on decarbonization. So we have to be more open for innovation and possibilities and not excluding technology.
Chairman of the EPP Group, Manfred Weber, emphasises that he and his fellow lawmakers want to stay on track when it comes to environmental goals.
We all know how important the car industry is for Europe. We speak about 14 million jobs, 255 plants in Europe. So that is a key pillar for our economic strength. We produced 16 million cars and now only 14 million. So we lost 2 million cars production. So we have a substantial challenge in front of us, how to give our car industry a good future. We want a carbon neutral Europe for 2050. There's no debate about this, but we also said that we want to do this in a technologically neutral approach. And we want to do this together with the industry, together with the stakeholders.
Europe has fully accepted the challenge of sustainable mobility and has achieved a very important result by investing in the internal combustion engine, powered by the latest generation fuels, such as e-fuels or biofuels.
Says Massimiliano Cellini.
Citizens and entrepreneurs must be free to choose all sustainable technologies available on the market.
For the EPP Group, it is clear that the EU must defend itself and its interests and protect European jobs.
Of course, we have to face the climate change, but we will not solve the issue by destroying our own industry to the profit of competitors like China, which is the main polluter of the world right now.
Underlines François Xavier Bellamy.
So we need to find the best answer to this global challenge we need to face. I mean, in Europe, we believe in our companies and we know that they are talented enough to face competition, but the competition needs to be fair. And on this level, on this field, we do not have a fair competition. We know that China is literally subsidizing its producers. We know that we also defined in this European Parliament, sadly there was a majority, including the Greens, the Socialists, Renew colleagues voting in favor of a regulation that gives, in fact, China a huge technological advantage. Because defining electric vehicles as the main standard and the exclusive norm as soon as 2035 is in fact setting the standard in the direction of the technology in which China has 10 years of advance on us. So we want to get back with EPP to a real technological neutrality We need, of course, to decarbonize, but it's for us, politicians, to set the horizon. It's for the industrials to define the solutions, the concrete techniques that they will need to develop to reach the objective. We should not be defining the technology, and we should not have let this parliament, we were opposing to this with EPP.
The way forward is not only to level the playing field with China, but first and foremost to create conditions for businesses to thrive. Europe has worked in several directions, the first with more incentives and more diplomacy to prevent companies from moving their factories to third countries and unfair competition from markets such as China. The future will radically change the model, with Europe having to invest in innovation to be more competitive and lead this new stage. Polish MEP Dariusz Joński emphasises that Europe should follow the example of the United States and strengthen protections against the influx of cheap, subsidised Chinese cars. He argues that more robust measures are needed to safeguard the European market.
In America, it's a special tariff about 100%, and they stop import Chinese car to USA. Maybe we have to do the same, because this tariff right now is too low. We have to protect automotive sector in Europe, and we have to invest and stop to import from Chinese cheap electric cars.
The Green Deal must now create jobs. That is what the Green Deal must do. And the Green Deal must create jobs in Europe and not in China. That is also an important message from our point of view. That's why we support the measures introduced by the European Commission towards China. We want to have trade. We want to have a strong trade relationship with our Chinese partners. But this trade must be based on a fair market conditions. And that is not the case in this moment of time. We all have in mind the development on the solar panel market, where Europe was strong, innovative. Today, nearly 100% is in the hand of the Chinese. And we don't want to see a similar developments now in the electric car market. The European Union needs a clear plan for our car industry to enter into the new phase, into the new world. National solutions will not work.
The EPP Group wants to ensure that driving remains affordable for everyone, not just those who can afford expensive electric cars. For this, Europe must be driven by economic realism and remain technologically neutral. If we do not, driving will become too expensive for many Europeans, and we will lose countless jobs in the automotive industry to competitors like China. That's all for this episode of our podcast series, EU Decoded. Make sure you join us next time as we dive into other burning topics with our guests. For more, follow us via @EPP Group.